Once upon a time, a prince went for hunting with some of his friends. While hunting a deer, he was left alone in forest and far away from his friends. And the way went astray. By the time he realized that I had gone too far, it was already too late. While looking for his way back, he saw a lantern out of a hut. He went to the house and knocked on the door. In the meanwhile, a very beautiful girl opened the door. He was stunned to see her beauty and wondered how it lives in this forest. The prince narrated the whole story to the girl, how he had lost his way while hunting for the deer, and he had nothing even to eat. Can she help him? The girl heard the prince's words and called out to her father that a stranger had come and asked for some help. Hearing this, the girl's father was also come outside, and he said to the prince that he should not be depressed. God will make everything better, and reassured him that he would help him as much as he could. Hearing this, the prince thanked the old man. There, the king's health suddenly deteriorated. The king sent the messenger with a letter to urge the prince to back to the palace quickly. When messenger reached the forest, he met the prince's friends who were worried, and they told him all the matter on inquiring from the messenger. When he found out that the king's health was bad, and it was very necessary to reach the palace of the prince, so they became more worried. They resumed his search for the prince. There the prince ate the food and went to the way the old man told him. On the way, he found his companions. He was very happy to see them, but seeing their sad faces, he asked, "Why are you sad?" "Now I have returned." The messenger gave the letter sent by the king to the prince. When the prince opened the letter and read it, he too became very worried and hurriedly left for the palace along with his companions. But before he reached the palace, the king had died, and the prince's uncle had announced to become the king and took over the kingdom. His uncle was a very cruel person. In fact, he poisoned the king as part of a conspiracy. As soon as the prince reached the palace, his uncle imprisoned him. As the days passed, one day suddenly a wizard came to him and said to the prince that if you say, "I can free you from here, and I can make you the king of the kingdom." The prince was happy to hear this, but the wizard said, "I have one condition, that when you become king, will marry my daughter." The prince, who was fed up with this isolation and imprisonment, so he agreed quickly. The wizard controlled the prince's uncle, who had now become the king by the power of his magic. He freed the prince from prison and made him king, and confessed to the prince how he had killed the king by poisoned him. Hearing this, the prince was very angry and ordered his uncle to be imprisoned immediately. After some days, the wizard to remind the prince of his promise, and said, "Now is the time to fulfill your promise." The prince, who had now become king, agreed to fulfill his promise. He asked the wizard to call his daughter. "I am ready to marry her." The wizard already came with his daughter, who stand outside. He called her. As the king's eyes are on the sorcerer's daughter, he is frightened to see her because her face was very scary. He felt regret that why he had promised without seeing her. Then he thought, regretting over what has been damaged is unproductive. The next day, the king was marry her to fulfill his promise. Every day, the king thought of the girl he found in the forest. "That I wish she was my queen, but nothing could happen now." After a few days, the sorcerer's daughter, who had now become the queen, interfered in the affairs of the kingdom, and they inflicted atrocities on the people, and would have been very happy by giving various punishments. The king did not like all this, and he started to feel depressed. One day he saw a dream. An old man whom he had met in the forest appeared and asked him to come to him. After seeing this dream, the king woke up and decided to go to the jungle in the morning. After a long journey, he reached the forest and knocked on their door. Then the same girl opened the door. This time she was not surprised to see the king, as if she knew that the king was coming, and told the king that father was waiting for you. Hearing this, the king was surprised and entered the hut. Seeing the king, the old man said, "I know you are worried. The girl you married is actually a cruel witch. If you don't get rid of her, she will kill you too and take over the kingdom." The king asked them, What should I do to get rid of these father and daughter? The old man said that you cut some of her hair and bring it to me. All his power is in her hair. I will burn her hair and her strength will be gone. Then you will get rid of him easily." The king was very happy to hear this and returned to the palace before evening. As the night fell and the queen fell asleep, the king cut off some of her hair and in the morning again went to the old man in the jungle, where they were waiting for him, and the king handed over the hairs to them. The old man read something and burned it, and said to the king that now you can go back without fear. As soon as the king returned, he saw that the queen had turned into an old witch. She said to the king, "You have not done this well. I will not leave you." The king divorced him at the same time, and both father and daughter expelled the palace. And by sending messenger, he ordered that the old man and his daughter should be brought to the palace with honor. When they reached the palace, the king said to the old man, "That can I make your daughter a queen?" Hearing this, the old man shook his head and said that he does not mind if you ask this question to my daughter yourself. The king went to his daughter and asked, "Will you marry me and become my queen?" The girl nodded, yes, and they got married, and they lived happily ever after. Thank you for watching.